you want to fight. Hi, I'm Jeff, and this is my read on C.S. Lewis, where we learn about him together through everything that he wrote in the order that he wrote it. I know I said in the last episode that was our final episode of the Pilgrim's Regress, but I was just looking through some of my notes, and there's just a little bit of cleanup that I want to do, and getting our episodes into a round number, rounding off our Pilgrim's Regress episode count to 29, from 29 to 30 parts. Just felt a little bit better for my mild OCD. If we look back over here, this is part 30, so I feel a little bit better about that. And so I just wanted to run through a couple of things that I think are important. I also couldn't resist bringing Lady Reason back. I think she plays a pretty significant role in the story, and of course in Lewis's journey that the story is reflecting. I wanted to read the section from the book that this thumbnail here represents, and just walk through a couple more letters where I think Lewis's life kind of points to what led to the creation of this portion of the book. So let me read this portion of the book. It's called This Side by Lightning is the chapter that this shows up in. Let me see if I can bring my book onto the screen here. Let's see, right there. Let's share it. Okay, cool. So let me read this part. It was now pitchy black. Actually, let me pull this in. So this, just to give us a little bit of a refresher on what's leading into this. So Lewis had been sleeping in the cave of the hermit, Father History, and he had a dream where contemplation was taking him across the canyon and ultimately to the island. And it turns out that this palace is on the island. And he starts to see this palace and all these other pilgrims that are wandering or sojourning, as it were, to the palace. And he starts getting these flashes from his memories of the landlord's castle and how this place looks like the landlord's castle. And it brings back all of his fears of the black hole and of his uncle dying. And he tries to get away from Lady Contemplation. He tries to take his hand out of hers, and it just won't work. And so you can see here in the picture that Robot Lady put together for us, he's getting pretty scared or frantic. He doesn't feel like this is right. And so he wakes up from that dream, and then that leads us to, see if I can find the image here pretty quickly, assuming I have it in this folder. Maybe. There it is. There we go. So that takes us to this section of the book in this image right here. Let me pull this over. Maybe I can do a little bit of both. Yeah, that should work. It was now pitchy black in the cave, in the hermit's cave where he woke up. Only the quiet breathing of the hermit recalled to John where he was. And with the first return of the knowledge, he was already creeping out of the cave to dare the black night and the narrow ledge, to crawl, the skin off his hands and knees, to do and suffer anything, so long as he was going back and not on in this direction where the next turning might lead him into the heart of his adversary's power. The rain fell in torrents and thunder echoed among the rocks, but the cool moisture on his back was better than the hot moisture on his forehead. He did not dare to stand up and walk, for the new terrors had not driven out the old, but rather joined with them in phantasmagoric harmony, so that all in one moment his inner eye saw the black hole full of spiders and scorpions, the narrow ledge sloping horribly the wrong way, the drop into the darkness, and his body bounced from crag to crag, the terrible face of Uncle George when the mask would not stay on. And as the flashes came faster, and the thunder followed faster on each flash, a new fear joined the dance. And in each flash, the timeless, unforgettable sight of the cliffs lit up from end to end, gave a new edge to the old fear of climbing. And that again brought back the fear of Uncle George's face. Completely forgot to acknowledge the comments. Happy Sunday, Seeking Genuine. I don't know if you're still here. That was a little bit earlier when I started the stream, but welcome. Let me finish reading here, and then I'll get more into what I want to talk about. The terrible face of Uncle George when the mask would not stay on. Sorry, I got a little bit farther behind. Faster on each flash, a new fear joined the dance, and in each flash, the timeless, unforgettable sight of the cliffs lit up from end to end. He's looking over at the canyon with these flashes of lightning, gave new edge to the old fear of climbing, so that it brought back the fear of Uncle George's face. So will mine look when I lie broken at the bottom of the gorge, until at last, when the complexity of fears seemed to admit no increase, a sharp commanding voice out of the darkness suddenly startled him with such a shock that he seemed not to have been frightened till then. But reason would not let him pass. Back, said the voice. John crouched motionless from the balance of fears. He was not even sure that he could turn on this bit of ledge. Back, said the voice, or else show that you're the better man. The lightning tore open the darkness and flung it to again. But John had seen his enemy. It was reason, this time on foot, but still mailed. Remember, the only times that John has seen her before this is she was riding on her steed. Nidalate joining us in the chat as well. Good morning, Nidalate. Good to see you. I don't have Robot Lady dialed up today, but if we need her, I'll pull her on board. I'm hoping that the stream today won't go very long. Let's see here. The lightning tore open the darkness and flung it to again. But John had seen his enemy. It was Reason, this time on foot, but still mailed, her sword drawn in her hand. "Do you want to fight?" she said in the darkness. John had a wild thought of catching one of the mailed ankles from where he crouched. But when he had a picture of Reason falling into the gulf, he could not get it clear of another picture in which he fell with her. "I can't turn here." So at this point, he's facing her and he's on his hands and knees. She's like, "You want to fight? You're going to go this way. You're going to have to fight me to go back the way that you came," is essentially what she's saying. He says, "Well, I can't turn around here." But the steel was at his throat, and turn he did. He shuffled along at a surprising speed, still on his hands and knees, till he passed the cave again. It was no longer a question of plans or of ultimate escape. The hunted animal's impulse to prolong the chase kept him rangingly on the move. The flashes were growing rarer, and a star or two showed ahead. Then all of a sudden, a wind shook the last raindrops fiercely in his face, and there was moonlight all about him. But he drew back with a groan. So I just wanted to pull out this this image again. What are you saying, Chris? Chris, welcome this morning. Please get Seeking Genuine by name, or greet Seeking Genuine by name. I don't know if Seeking Genuine has made it public. I think that I technically heard Claire share Seeking Genuine's name, but I don't know if I have permission to seek or to share Seeking Genuine's name. So I'm not going to do it until then. Let's see here. But good morning nonetheless. Greetings to you all. Greetings, Grim. Greetings, Seeking Genuine. I will continue to use your Batman name and not your Bruce Wayne name until you give me permission to do so. And greetings, Nidalate, who also has a Bruce Wayne name that I will never share without permission. Here we go. So why am I going back to all of this again? I think that this is a pretty significant part in Lewis's conversion. His contention with reason here. Let me just put this part back up on the screen right here. There we go. What are you saying, Grizz? It's just treating me like robot lady. Thank you, Grizz. Good morning, Seeking Genuine. Good morning, Grizz. Good morning, Nidalate. And good morning to anyone else who's joining, but perhaps is lurking and not putting anything in the chat. So I want to read you a couple of more excerpts from some Lewis letters that I think hint at parts of his life or things that happened in his life that helped inform this little section of the book. So I'll start here with a letter written to, who is this one written to? Oh, let me go back. Yeah, let me start with this one right here, and then I've got a couple more. So this is a letter that he wrote to Arthur Greaves in 1930, January 13th, roughly. Let's see. Well, we already covered this one last time, but I'll just cover it again really quickly. He was reading from Jacob Boehm, The Signature of All Things. He said, "I always assumed that if I could reach things Boehm is here talking about, I should like them. There is something really very dreadful in the second chapter of the Signatura. You'll think I'm putting this on just a little bit. Honestly, I'm not. I intend to try and get hold of some good commentator on this book, if there is one, and worry out the meaning. In the meantime, I wish to record that it has been about the biggest shaking up that I've got from a book since I first read Phantastes. It is not such a pleasant experience as Phantastes, and if it continues to give me the same feeling when I understand more, I shall give it up. No fooling about for me, and I keep one hand firmly gripped round the homely and simple things. But it is a real book, i.e., it's not like a book at all, but like a thunderclap. Heaven defend us, what things are knocking about the world." So thunderclap, just think of this lightning and the thunder that would come along with it. But also him kind of hedging his bets and saying, well, if I don't like what I find in this book, I'm turning back and I'm going the other way, is kind of what I'm reading into this. And now here, I think is a more, well, we'll see. We'll see what you think about this one. So this one also ties into what I think is going on here. This one is also a letter written to Arthur Greaves. He's writing this one from the kilns on December 24th, 1930. And he says, I think the trouble with me is lack of faith. I have no rational ground for going back on the arguments that convinced me of God's existence, but the irrational deadweight of my old skeptical habits and the spirit of this age. Again, remember, Lady Reason actually rescued him from the prison of the spirit of the age in our Paul Vanderklay episode, the giant slayer. I have no rational ground for going back on the arguments that convinced me of God's existence, but the irrational dead weight of my old skeptical habits and the spirit of this age and the cares of the day steal away all my lively feeling of the truth. And often when I pray, I wonder if I'm not posting letters to a non-existent address. Mind you, I don't think so. The whole of my reasonable mind is convinced. Remember, John did meet the man on the road who gave him bread and gave him water. So he doesn't think that he's praying to a non-existent address. He's actually received help along his journey up to this point. The whole of my reasonable mind is convinced, but I often feel so. However, there is nothing to do but to peg away. One falls so often that it hardly seems worthwhile picking oneself up and going through the farce of starting over again, as if you could ever hope to walk. Still, this seeming absurdity is the only sensible thing I do, so I must continue it. And all the time, on the other side, the imaginative side, the fairy angel, I get glimpses and vanishing memories, as often take my breath away, as if they said, look what you're losing. These are the people around the pool, I think, is what he's talking about here. If you remember the pool of surrender, as I've been calling it, that we get back here in this image. He gets such glimpses and vanishing memories as often take my breath away, as if they said, look what you're losing, as if they were just to deprive one of all excuse. How well I talk about it, how little else I do. I wonder, would it be better not to speak to one another of these things at all? Is the talking a substitute for doing? And then let me just jump really quickly into a couple of more letters that I have here that I just think this is just a little bit of cleanup for the Pilgrim's Regress. I thought I was showing this image right here of this pool earlier, but that's what I was talking about. Let me do just a little bit more cleanup, a couple more things to read. Again, the one here, actually, let me share this screen again. And then go full screen, maybe. Yeah. And then open this up. And let me swing back and find the image that I'm looking for. Where is it? Where is it? Yeah, it's either this one. It's this one right here. So this is his first encounter with church. This is John's first encounter with the stewards, and where the guy put on his mask and started, telling him all of the things about the landlord and keeping to the rules and whatnot. And so there's a section way back from 1929 where he was writing a letter to his father, and he says, I had 4 days away from Oxford, and I spent them walking with my usual party, friends from my undergraduate days. Now, this, of course, is not the same as when C.S. Lewis was a child, which is kind of what this image right here represents. But it just has to do with this pretend or this two-facedness that he seems to be talking about here, that he sees in the stewards or the people in the church. He says, I was on a walking tour with my usual party, friends from my undergraduate days, from Salisbury to Lyme Regis. Luckily, I need not describe Salisbury to you. It will be enough to say that I have now seen it 3 times, and each time with increasing admiration. Sorry, I was looking up at the screen to make sure that y'all could hear me, and I lost my place. 3 times, increasing admiration. But I made the mistake of attending a weekday evensong. So this is a church service, essentially. We assembled at Salisbury in the afternoon. This is Salisbury Cathedral, starting our walk on the following morning, or they assembled at Salisbury. There was no music, and the psalms were read. 4 fat and spongy clergymen, 2 on each side, in a little weekday chapel at the back of the main altar, scampered and simpered through the job in a way that really disgusted me. It is perhaps too much to expect any intense spiritual quality in the reading of men who have to do it every day. And yet, why are they in church if the thing means so little to them as that? But I think one is entitled to expect the decency of clear and unaffected pronunciation and such a general appreciation of the mere literary qualities of the service as ought to belong to any educated men. I know I should be ashamed to read out a recipe as abominably as they read out the Psalms. Then one looked round at the cathedral, and the contrast between those who built it and those who now officiate it in it was pretty steep. So that's all that Lewis had to say in his letter, but this just shows you, some of what he sees as play acting or hypocrisy in some of the clergymen, particularly at this service that he went to. And so then here, Walter Hooper gives a little bit of an editorial note, and he quotes Lewis. Why are they in church? Lewis asked about the clergymen in Salisbury Cathedral if the thing means so little to them as that. This concern with sincerity is perhaps the first indication of a huge change in Lewis's spiritual life, for it was about this time, we don't know the exact date, that Lewis came to believe in God. Though not yet in Christ, speaking of his conversion to theism, he said in Surprised by Joy, you must picture me alone in that room in Magdalen, night after night, feeling whenever my mind lifted, even for a second from my work, the steady, unrelenting approach of him whom I so earnestly desired not to meet. Let me switch back over here. I just like looking at this image. My mouse is not working. There we go. Let's bring this one. How do I bring this one back? There we go. What else was I saying here? Him who I so earnestly desired not to meet, that which I greatly feared had at last come upon me. In the Trinity term of 1929, I gave in, and I admitted that God was God, and I knelt and prayed. Perhaps that night, the most dejected and reluctant convert in all England. I did not see what is now the most shining and obvious thing, the divine humility, which will accept a convert even on such terms. The prodigal son at least walked home on his own feet. But who can duly adore that love, capital L, which will open the high gates to a prodigal who is brought in kicking, struggling, resentful, and darting his eyes in every direction for a chance of escape? And that reminds me of, let me go find this other image really quickly. That reminds me of the one we were just looking at before, opening us up to this section of the book. Yeah, this one right here. He's darting his eyes, just saying that love, that God is so humble that he'll even accept someone who's kicking, struggling, resentful, darting his eyes in every direction for a chance of escape. The words compel intrar. What is this? Et aid dominus servo exi in vias et sipus et compel intrar un impletar domas viae, translated, and the Lord said unto the servant, go out into the highways and hedges and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. So he says here that the words compel, intrare, compel them to come in. They've been so abused by wicked men that we shudder at them. But properly understood, they plumb the depth of the divine mercy. The hardness of God is kinder than the softness of men, and his compulsion is our liberation. Let's see. I think there might have been one or two other things that I wanted to cover from one or two more letter passages from letters. Let me see if there's anything else. Oh, just talking about how he got help on the road. The one about the bread. Let's go back to this one for a second. Let me find my bread picture right there. So he got help along his road, John did. And let's see. John meeting the man with bread. Oh, just a quick little excerpt that he wrote to Owen Barfield on February 3rd of 1930. He said, my dear Barfield, domestic strain is, I hope, now over. On Wednesday, however, we have college meeting in the afternoon. Let me skip ahead here. He says to Barfield, he says, terrible things are happening to me. The spirit, he has with a capital S, or the real, he has with a capital R here in his letter, is showing an alarming tendency to become much more personal and is taking the offensive and behaving just like God. You'd better come on Monday at the latest, or I may have entered a monastery. So that's his letter to Barfield. And this section of the book right here, where he receives his bread, for a while he had been thinking and being fine, moving along with just thinking about the absolute, the greatness of the world, or of existence, as just kind of like a myth. But whenever he kept getting help from God in these different ways, he was confronted with the fact, and even the character in the book tells him, look, you can't have it both ways. If I'm a myth, you can't get help from me. And also, if I'm not a myth, that means that I can actually come to you and ask things of you as well as you asking things of me. I can ask you to help me with my work, just like you can ask me to help you carry out my work. We have Jer joining us today. Good morning, Jer. Good to see you. This is an extra bonus episode, and I'm hoping that this will actually be the final one. I just realized there were some items that I wanted to cover here. And then I think I just have one more about this section of the man helping him with bread. Let's see here. Where does it start? Is there no chance? Let me look it up real quick, and while I'm doing that, I'll play the song that goes with this image. Here we go. Okay, I found it. This is in a letter to someone named A.K. Hamilton Jenkin, and I honestly can't remember who A.K. Hamilton Jenkin is, one of his old friends, I think. He says at the end of this letter that he wrote to him on March 21st of 1930, he says, on my side, there are changes perhaps bigger. You will be surprised to hear that my outlook is now definitely religious. It is not precisely Christianity, though it may turn. This is very interesting because this kind of contradicts Lewis remembering it in his little autobiography that he wrote, where he says it was in 1929. I guess he just kneeled down and prayed and surrendered to God. So maybe it's not conflicting. But he says, you'll be surprised to hear that my outlook is now definitely religious. It is not precisely Christianity, though it may turn out that way in the end. Man, so much. I was looking back over some of our old some of the old rando conversations between Paul and, the various people that reached out to him. And I was looking in particular at our quintessential rando from the internet, who reached out to Paul, Job. And man, this sounds so similar to the journey that Job went through. It is not precisely Christianity, though. It may turn out that way in the end. I can't express the change better than by saying that whereas once I would have said, shall I adopt Christianity? I now wait to see whether it will adopt me. That is, I now know there is another party, capital P, in the affair, and that I'm playing poker, not patience, as I once supposed. Let me have a line. Yours, C.S. Lewis. Love from all here. So that was the last piece of cleanup that I wanted to do from these letters. Let me just double check and make sure that I didn't earmark anything else. Oh, actually I did. Nope, already read that one. I think this is the last one. Yeah, that's all that I've got. So let's switch back to this. There we go. And let me switch to this. Hey, it's me. Let me check the comments here. I have to leave pretty soon. And Grizz says, good to know God came to him first. Yes, yes. I mean, this is my experience too. I've shared it like years ago now in a conversation. I think the first time I shared it in public was the conversation that I had with Sarah Hardy on the Randos United channel. But that was my experience too. It wasn't being convinced of anything or having something, logically forced into me or something like that. But I actually did, I had an experience where I felt God come to me. I guess I explained it on Mark D. Parker's channel as well. But yeah, that's it. And actually, thinking back on it, I do remember that I actually prayed for an encounter, some sort of encounter for Job, like early on in my days of talking to him. I can't remember whether or not it happened. I'll just share my side of the experience of just, asking him if it was okay if I prayed for God to come to him like in an actual encounter type way, and I can't remember if he shared what has happened since then, but I won't get into it because I don't think it's my story to tell. I've probably told too much of it already. Yeah, so that's all I've got. I'm gonna leave here in about 10 minutes, but I am on StreamYard. If anybody wants to come on for a couple minutes and just hang out, I don't do this very often just because my whole setup is through OBS and I have a free StreamYard account, and I run out of hours anyway. And I'm typically trying to just plow through all the material that I want to plow through and not have conversations because I don't know why. Probably because I'm an introvert. But yeah, I'll drop this right here if anybody wants to come in. Let me see if I can figure out how to do this. One second. All right. Not that. Find that. Go to that. Now I can drop this right here. Paste. There we go. Yeah, so come in if you want. I've got a couple minutes. We can hang out. If not, well, in the meantime, let's just play some music. Which one do we want to listen to? Let's listen to Giant Slayer.
Beside the giant where the prisoners crawl from light, where his eye makes flesh transparent, skull beneath the skin inside. But the boy remembered some things feed and some things only against the ground. The cloak falls back, the night gives way. A titaness with sword drawn, unbound. She is the giant slayer. She is the steel between. She is the question without answer. She is the sword unseen. She asked him for colors in the deep, for hue no eyes have known. He cannot name what darkness keeps when every light has flown. She asked him of a woman by a river, a bridge, and her decision. Her love is headed home to her, but with him their derision. Choose both, clever giant, or choose neither. Have nothing or love tainted. I listen and accept your silence. No answer have you stated. She asked him by what rule he tells the substance from facade. The throne that judges all things beneath is judged to be the fraud.
She drives her spurs against the steel, the hoofbeats coming double. She drives the blade beneath the ribs, reducing him to rubble.
She is the giant slayer. She is the steel between. She is the question without answer. She is the sword unseen. And the giant was a hummock, and the giant was a stone. And the world is the world, it always was.
We've got Nidalate in the house. Hello, Nidalate.
Hi.
How's it going?
Well, it's rehearsal day, so I'm a little jittery. Getting ready.
Yeah. I don't think I've gotten my rehearsal date yet. I haven't seen anything. I should probably check my messages.
Well, just go look at the Excel sheet so you're ready.
Oh, okay.
I asked a bunch of questions this morning. I'm like, sorry for all the questions, but hello. How are you today?
I'm doing okay. I was just, I wanted to do one more thumbnail and actually produce 2 more songs for the thumbnail that we put out today. And just felt like I needed to clean up with those last couple of segments from the letters that we had already read from the first volume of letters. You can see here in the book all of my notes, all of my little post-it notes that I stuck in on this one as I was finding things along the way, going back and looking over it.
Yeah, it's interesting how, I have Kindle and I have, hard books, and they both have pros and cons, when you're looking for things, because on Kindle, you can just get in the search if you're looking for a word, versus the hard copy, you're just flipping through pages, going to the back, trying to figure it out when you're looking for specific information. And so you did a lot of research to come up with the letters that parallel the story.
Yeah, I just, as we were reading certain parts of the story, there were just things that were triggering in my mind. And I was like, I swear he talked about this somewhere. And so I just spent, I don't know, a couple of mornings going back through, roughly the time period where I think he would have been talking about them in that volume, and eventually found them and just made some quick notes. But yeah, it's been really fun. It's been really fun to see how this stuff ties together.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I know everybody that's joined in has really enjoyed it. And you can call me Karen.
Okay.
You have my permission. Anytime.
We'll use your Bruce Wayne name.
Okay.
This is Karen Knit-A-Latte, folks, coming out of
Ta-da!
the Knit-A-Latte mask.
Yeah, auditioning, I had, you have to do emails and, so it's already out there. So this is not
Oh
new
yeah,
news.
true.
So I'm hoping you will go out with Mother Kirk because, I need a new cry this morning.
Oh, you want to hear that one or you don't?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
let's
do.
go out with that one because I've got to run. I've got
Yeah.
to head to church, and if I want to get there on time, I've got to leave soon.
Yeah, and let us know when the playlist comes out. So I want to hear it.
Okay, I will.
Okay.
That'll take a little bit more work, but yes, I will eventually release that.
Thank you so
All
much,
right.
Jeff. It's been wonderful.
Thanks, Karen.
Bye-bye.
Take care. See you on the next one.
Okay.
All right, let's pull up the request to close things out. Seeking Genuine says, honored to make your acquaintance, Karen. Excellent. All right, well, let's see. I'll go ahead and play. I'll do something. I guess I can switch my images here to Mother Kirk. This is Karen's favorite song, so we'll go out with this one right here. Let me switch to this screen. Let me switch right here. There we go. And we'll catch you all next time. Thanks, everyone, for your time, your attention, and your contributions. They're always wanted and welcome. Always wanted, welcome, and appreciated. Until next time, to you and everyone else who's been watching here or in the future. When we continue our read on C.S. Lewis, take care.
Sit you down, the sun is low. Hear a tale that the old roads know. Once the world was a single form, all walked in calm before the coming storm. There was no fence, there was no fear. The landlord walked among them here, and then a hand, and then a tree, and then a bite, and then there's a crack in the world. There's a crack in the world. North to south, you can hear it groan through the marrow of every bone. There's a crack in the world, and it runs through me, and it runs through you, and it runs through every road we've known. Every fruit on every bough bears the taste of the broken vow. Every river runs through the wound. Every cradle is built on wood. And we built our towns, and we drew our maps, and we called it Build on Wind. There's a crack in the wall. There's a crack in the wall. North whose fathers lived. I have watched the proud men try the way. I have buried what the canyon takes. Getting up is another question. Getting up is another question. Getting up is another question. There's a crack in the world. There's a crack in the world. But the one who made the world whole made a way through the marrow and bone. There's a crack in the world, and it runs through me, and it runs through you, and the only way up is to me, Sit you down, the sun is low.